What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and this is the Early Bird Artcast, the first one on the 3rd of January, the first one of the year of 2020, the first one of the decade. And so it's exciting, and we figured we'll talk about new beginnings. Kim Holm is here, and he gave me the idea for that, and then we were also inspired by the thumbnail artwork by Pepper DeLuca. So, we're going to talk about fresh starts here. So today we have, speaking about these people, we have Pepper DeLuca here. What's up, Pepper? Let people know where they can find you.
Hey, Pepper DeLuca. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Pretty much just look up Pepper DeLuca. I'm the first thing that you find.
Awesome.
Think of names.
That's good. You got lucky with that, I guess. And Ronnie Gunter is here. What's up, man? Where can people find you?
You could find me at ronniegunter.art on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. And also Kim Diaz Holm. I'm so used to just Kim Holm, but I know you recently changed it. So how you doing, man? Where can people find you?
I'm doing excellent. People can find me not at Kim Diaz Holm because that would be too easy. You can find me at Den Unge Herr Holm all around the net. It's written exactly how it sounds.
Awesome.
Just check the links.
Yes. Once again, and as I always say, the links are all in the description below. I think most of the links are all YouTube links, so you can kind of find them through there, and then some of their social media will, I'm sure, be linked within their videos and all that stuff. So, and you know where you can find me, DonkeyJawProjects.com and Marsh Comics on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So, fresh starts. Oh, and also just forgive us. We do know that there's an echo. We tried to fix it beforehand, and unfortunately we can't. Hopefully it won't get any worse than this. I think this is bearable at least. So, forgive us for that, but we'll just keep going and make this thing happen. So fresh starts. I mean, the thing is once again, it's a new decade. It's a new year. Everybody's always thinking about New Year's resolutions during this time. Some people don't like New Year's resolutions, but I think it's inevitable. You kind of think about goals. It's just an easy starting point, kind of to think about that stuff. And you know, we kind of, some of us here know about something that has just started. Um, you know, I just recently came up with this idea to come up do a challenge for comic books, because basically how this kind of started was I was thinking about I want to make more comics this year, and I've done the 100 Days of Making Comics many times. I've also done 365 Days of Making Comics 2 years in a row. Not perfectly, but I did it, and I did most of the days. And I was thinking, well, I've kind of done that, the whole like daily routine thing. I mean, I'm still gonna do that. I think that's pretty much a set habit that I'll probably carry out for most of my life at this point. But I wanted like a new challenge, and I know I want to make more comics, so I decided, and I was inspired by a few different things, but I decided to create this challenge in the Discord called, basically the Make More Comics Challenge, where it's actually going to be a bit of a competition between everybody in the Discord, and it's a friendly competition where the person basically who makes the most comics, most pages in a year will end up winning, and there's going to be a little bit of a prize, and there's going to be runner up awards too. So I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, but we started. It's 2020. We're starting this. We're gonna see who can make the most pages and stuff. And that's not what this episode is necessarily about, but that's one.
Sorry to interrupt, but for 2020, I have a resolution, which
What's
is
that?
make less comics.
Make zero
because
comics.
I actually stopped making comics in 2018, and then by accident I made a single comic page last year. So now I'm going to get it down to 0.
Yes, that
I
sounds like
might make negative comic. I might make minus comics pages.
I don't know. I think that you might be able to accomplish your goal of making 0. Making negative, though, I'm not sure how you'd make that happen.
I'm gonna burn them.
Awesome. Well, I mean, when you make fresh starts, I mean, depending on what your goal is, sometimes you got to kind of, let go of the past. And I've been doing some of that myself too lately. So, what I'm curious, Kim, like I said, this isn't all about that challenge or anything. What are your goals coming up for this new year?
Oh, that's my non-jokey goals are pretty hard because I haven't really figured it out. But I think that I'm creatively I'm quite on a roll lately, and I've been doing various personal pieces of art and getting more and more exhibit spaces. And I've started this daily monster Instagram page where I draw a monster every day, and that just keeps me at a minimum of creativity every day. No matter how bad the day goes, I can always find the time to make a little monster, and it just keeps the creative juices flowing. And I also trying to keep more in touch with doing more landscape art and more non-dark art, just to expand my horizons. So I think that I'll be unusually pragmatic and set my goals as purely economic ones. That this year I actually have a sum of money in my head that I need to, if not hit, then at least see how close I can get to hitting. And it's a strange thought for me, but I think it's a necessary thing to figure out. So my goal is get rich or die trying.
Well, actually, I think that kind of perspective on it when it comes to like trying to make a living with this stuff or die trying. I like that how you kind of added that at the end. Whether you were serious or not, I don't know, but I think that like I feel that way about comics and trying to make a career like with all this like I'm I'm not giving up, and I think that's kind of an important thing. Like when you're starting, it's nice to come into the new year, or new decade, or new whatever with goals and dreams and ideas and stuff. But if you don't have an actual desire to actually finish some of the things, it's nice to begin new things. But if you don't have a commitment to finish some things, I think a lot of that can kind of that energy and effort can go wasted. I know I've experienced that in the past. Uh, Pepper, what are you looking forward to this year and decade? What's the big plans?
Well, for one thing, just make sure that I can get for the schedule for my own work and my own comics. Sorry, my cat seems to like me only when I'm talking, and then he'll hound me and like. Sorry.
That's all right. We're cat friendly here, and it only helps the algorithm get farther anyway. So.
So essentially, I have 2 books that I have to produce this year. Campfire Stories of Lake Kiki Poppy, Chapter 2, Part 1 and 2. The Part 1 has to be out by February, Part 2 has to be out 3 months after that. So I'm working on both of those simultaneously right now. I got, and then I have to get them printed. So that's the other thing. I have one book that I finished right before the new year called Clover Patch that is in the printing process that I have to do with that. I've had a few good reactions from people that I've showed it already to, so it's good. Let's see. Oh, and then I think I have a one-pager, but I don't think I can really say who I got the one-pager comic from at this point. I haven't signed anything, but
It was
it's
Kim Holm.
I'm gonna burn it afterwards.
well, yeah. So I have that, and then basically the main thing is to try to like him was like basically make a living off of it. So that's my goal this year. Just plug away, and I'm gonna probably try to submit more to different things so that I can get like at least something coming in, especially if it's paying.
Yeah. So one thing I know about you, Pepper, is you're definitely productive. You get stuff done, and so it's really cool that you got that comic finished, and you're in the printing process. As far as plans go, with kind of more the business side, do you plan on like crowdfunding any of these comics, or?
The idea is to do something similar to publishing companies who want to publish a lot of things at once, where like we basically do the Kickstarter, or like we'll do a Kickstarter and then we'll mention like everything that we want to publish, and then we'll just do an update every single time. I don't want to do it like where it's like one of those things where I have like one or two Kickstarters for the same thing. That makes sense. So I want to get it to the point where once part 1 is done, that one and Clover Patch will be like put together as like something that will be sent out right away, and then two or three other things that we have to work on this year will be like kind of included, but it won't be done for like a bit after that, if that helps. But it's just like to try to help support us doing things. We took a year off from doing tabling last year, so hopefully we can do that more often this year so that we can get better promotion. Since we live in the state of Colorado, which seems like there's like more conventions than what people need, you can easily oversaturate yourself here in this state. Which if you're wanting to know about events and stuff, you stay too long in the States and you see the same people at every single convention in your states, pretty much you're going to tap out that audience really quickly. So try to find places where we have friends where we can stay the night to kind of lower the cost of going out of state for conventions is something that I want to look forward to.
Yeah.
Sorry, just getting over a cold. So.
Oh, that's okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. The oversaturation issue. I wonder. I think about some people who I see at conventions around here, and I wonder if that's happened with them or not. It's interesting. So yeah, what about the goals for this coming year and decade for you, Ronnie? What are you thinking?
The plan is to hope to have up to 3 stories out, and with my personal comic to do a Kickstarter for that as well, and some music on the side.
Awesome.
So.
Cool. Yeah. So, I guess, if people are watching my other videos, you probably already kind of have a really good idea of what I'm trying to do and stuff. But it's always changing. To me, it's really, like I said, I created this challenge partially selfishly because it's what I wanted to do anyways. But I figured why not get everybody else in on it who is but wants to be involved? And a lot of people are. Like it seems like everybody's really excited in the Discord, and I'm really excited to have a few more things to keep the Discord going. Not that I even have to, because everybody's very active in there. But another thing that's pretty cool in there that is new is we started. Actually, I asked Peter 13 to help me with this because he was already kind of doing this on his own. But we started a daily draw challenge, like daily draw prompts or whatever. So he puts in, and this might actually be something you'd be interested in, Kim. He put in a few prompts. There's like a list and a B list every day, and it's just various words and stuff. And then you just take whatever inspires you from that and create something from it. And so, you might be able to create some cool monsters that way if you needed some ideas. But yeah,
I definitely need ideas every day because today I've just ended up drawing you three as monsters. I don't know which is which, but it's definitely you three.
awesome. You're getting a pretty good likeness, I think, for me at least. So yeah, no, that's cool. Let's see. So the thing is too is like when we're starting to do new things, I think it's interesting how we approach it. Everybody seems to have like a different take. I have a lot of new beginnings going on in my life, just in life in general, not so much even comics as much, even though that's always something too. But you know, and it's some stuff that me and my wife are both going through, and I'm noticing as we're going through this process, she and I have kind of, I guess, we're very much in tune together, but at the same time we have like slightly subtle different takes sometimes. Or it's easy, like when you're starting something new, to be like hesitant, and I've definitely experienced that, or afraid, or it's like new things can be kind of scary, and they can also be exciting. um, we're going to be moving soon. That's always a tough one. And so I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you get hesitant at all when you're trying to do something new?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself in these cases. Like, basically, I started out the new year with essentially making watercolors
Mm-hmm.
to try to sell them, like handmade watercolors. And right now, I'm I'm in the process of maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't do this all. Maybe I should cancel it all. But then I was like, I already started it. I posted about it. If I turn back now, it's gonna look really bad. But essentially, like, I just, like, I was talking to my husband last night, and I was just like, hey, yeah, I don't know if the first two colors are actually going to be sellable yet. So I think I may have to like scrap all of them and then figure out what to do. But I had like other colors to back up my process, so I'm not too far into it. I just need to make sure I have them by the end of the month.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's definitely a big thing. The other thing is, Tim, I'm a three-horned. I'll take a three-horned.
Nice. I love it.
The other thing is we plan on selling our house in April so that we can fund the rest of our adoption funds. So, like, for us, yes, there's a big it's big life changes.
Yeah.
So there can be some hesitation with that, but it's just basically if you've ever gone through the adoption process, a lot of people will tell you that it's it can be very intrusive and very nerve-wracking. So
Yeah. I feel like I don't think I know anybody personally who's ever gone through it. I have heard some stories here and there, but just just to wrap my head around it without knowing much, I feel like it would be, kind of a challenge and just scary, because it's new. I think I don't know, personally for me, anytime I start to feel, and this is somewhat of a new thing. It used to be more that I would just get afraid and then just let worry kind of take over. But I've learned throughout the years, when I feel that feeling of like I'm kind of worried, I'm embarking on something new. One of the first things I do now is I go and research whatever it is. I look into it and try to find out as much as I possibly can, because the problem is when you're doing something new, you're taking a step into the unknown, and the thing they say, that's kind of the scariest thing, is the fear of the unknown a lot of times. So try to get to know it more, and when the more you know about it, the less scary it can be, the more you can create a plan around knowledge, and as they say, another one, knowledge is power. All these things have truth to them, I think. And I don't know, that's how I've been approaching it. I've had a lot of new beginnings lately, and every step, it's like I keep getting to that point where I'm like a little nervous, but then I do some research and I'm like, okay, this is palatable. I can do this, type of thing. Do you experience that hesitation? Kim, was that you about to? I think that was.
Yeah, I think that fundamentally, any new territory you stumble into, either willingly or unwillingly, it is a place of terror, because you don't. Everything that keeps you safe in life is familiarity. You're not killed by things because you know the things. You're not killed by cars because you know not to step in front of them. Whenever you're in any sort of new space, whether that be a physical space or a metaphorical space, then you're in a potentially very dangerous place. And artistically, I think that I'm trying out some new colors right now. These are liquid watercolors. I've never tried them before, and they're pretty cool so far. But I have no idea if I will make anything worthwhile with them. What I'm doing is potentially it's a waste of time, or potentially you'll all laugh at me for drawing silly rainbows online. But that's also a very liberating liberating thing, because when you're in this, I'll call it a place of terror, where you don't know what you're doing, that's also where all the rewards lie. There's no real rewards in the familiar space, but once you venture out into the unknown, you can come back and find something special. And so if you don't risk jumping into that strange, deep, dark water, then you won't find the treasure chest, nor will you get eaten by the shark. But it's kind of, when you get kids, it's kind of the same. You might get the treasure chest, but you most likely will be eaten by sharks.
That's awesome. So watch out, Pepper.
I'll take the motto with the kids. Yeah.
So Yeah, that's interesting though. I love that you brought that up. That it's like, yeah, there's risk, but there's also the possibility of some pretty amazing rewards too. Whether they're monetary or success, or whether they're something that kind of feeds something inside of you, or just a need that you need to fulfill. It's funny, I immediately thought of. Jersey Droz. I know Kim, you've definitely had some conversations with him, um,
Yes.
and throughout the years, I've heard him say some things that, where he talks about, he almost gauges whether he should do something, and I'm paraphrasing, don't take my my word for his word or whatever. But he basically gauges, if I'm understanding correctly, his whether he should do something sometimes by, is there like an element of fear in there, because he knows that that's where I think you're actually making progress, you're actually growing, you're building, instead of if you're doing something that's entirely comfortable, that might be a sign that, you know, you're not doing those things. You're not growing. You're not, kind of embarking on anything worthwhile, maybe.
Well, running away from your fears will definitely keep you more comfortable, but it also will expand the realm that you fear. So you'll get stuck inside your little bubble of safety in the vast ocean of fear. But following your fear, and actually, I've been going through this with my eldest kid a bit, because as he's getting older, he's 8 years tomorrow. He's naturally getting more scared of things as well, because you get the realization that things will harm you,
Mm.
and just getting him to uh, uh, cross these tiny little boundaries that he sets up for himself. And whenever he conquers one of his fears, you see that his horizon expands, his potential world expands, and it has also forced me to. Usually, I'm pretty good at doing what Jersey says and following chasing my fears, and experimenting with things I'm afraid of doing creatively. But to do it in real life as well is kind of funny. So I would. This doesn't sound scary, but I would. The next time any of you are home alone and you get this sneaking feeling, this slight nagging feeling that inside that half-open closet, you don't know what's there, or beyond that half-open door, inside that darkness, you don't know what's there. Don't go and open the closet. Don't go and open the door. Go to the closet, look away, and stick your hand into the darkness. It doesn't sound that revolutionary, but it is creepier than you'd think. So do that in life and in art.
Awesome. I like that, and I think that we can't ignore the fact that there is an element of risk, but at the same time, like you learn as you go. You take kind of calculated risks. You don't bet the farm every time you do something necessarily. You can take little risks and take little steps forward too, and then that'll lead you maybe to some bigger steps. But sometimes don't you don't have to do everything. Ronnie, what about you? Do you come up against any kind of hesitation when you're trying to start something new?
In the past, I have, but especially a lot of us comic book artists has hesitation in the beginning, especially when we're trying to create our own characters in our own universe. Because let's face it, there are times where people rather buy fan art than your original art. You know, or rather buy a comic book that's based off of a character that they like. But, you know, when you do have that one fan who does love your work, even if it's just one person, that makes your life feel like there are 1,000 people, because that person looks forward to, like, hey, when are your next issue, or where's your next original character going to come out? You know, that really what pumps your drive to want to keep on doing what you're doing after, you know, you got that success with the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. And you know, let that be something, you know, to anybody, you know, out there who is, whether you're an artist, a creator, or you're not, you know, the words that you say that are encouraging to another person who is trying to do something, those are a big deal, you know. And you know, if you can encourage somebody, you know, you don't realize how helpful that is. It's so true. Like, you know, sit here like with this new world of like social media and internet and stuff, and it's easy to kind of look at, you know, statistics and numbers and subscribers and followers and likes and all that stuff, and maybe compare yourself to somebody else who's got more of those things. And it's easy to kind of be like, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna ever get anywhere because look at these people and look at me. And you know, but the thing is I see a lot of people who are trying to build this thing, and they're, you know, just starting, and they get, you know, 20 likes, or even one or two, you know, is a big deal. And you know, you got to kind of think of it too, like, you know, if you were at a convention or something, or say you were at like a comic book shop, and you were, you know, showing off your artwork, if you had even one person standing there, like looking and checking it out and being like, wow, that's really cool. I would love to, you know, buy that when you're done with it or whatever. That is super encouraging. You know, if I had that experience, you know, I've gotten a decent amount of subscribers and things like that. But if I had that experience today, I'd be over the moon, you know, excited. So, you know, I don't know. It's really helpful to get that encouragement. So I would encourage you, everybody who has creative people in their lives, to you know, do exactly that. Encourage your. I'm trying to use my Apple Pencil on my laptop. That's like ridiculous. To go ahead and encourage the people on, you know, who are creative in your lives, because it really does make a big difference. What do you guys feel like is the thing that kind of motivates you to move forward with new things? I guess.
Not to sound like super weird, but to kind of quote Winnie the Pooh, doing nothing brings something, but doing something can bring nothing. Essentially, like, we got Disney Plus, and I, like, for some weird reason, just started watching like old 90s cartoons.
Nothing wrong with that.
From Disney, and I didn't realize like how like those 90s cartoons like really super affected like how I view things. But like sometimes like I can stare at a page and not get anything done because I'm in my own head. And then I'll start doing something, and then I'll come back the next day and like redo it completely because I didn't like what I did yesterday. So like it kind of works for that quote that I was talking about. But at the same time, I just know that this year I need to get stuff done. More so than I did last year. So I'm just kind of powering through, and if I get to that point, I'll figure it out.
I think you're mentioning something really important, but only almost. Almost mentioning it. It's that you go back the next day because you weren't happy with what you did the first day. and that's I think this might very well be a very destructive part of me, but it's still an important part, and that's my main motivation is failure. That I see things I do and I don't like them, so I want to do them slightly better the next day, and you know, just to keep it relevant, I've drawn something on this terrifying new space here, and I don't like it at all. But I feel just the slight hint of there's something here that I failed at catching that I might catch better the next time. But that sort of leads me to one of the problems with starting new and with fresh beginnings is, and Marshall, you mentioned this at the beginning, but for it to be a fresh beginning, you actually have to let go of the past. You actually have to wipe the slate clean and not think, yeah, I'll make this this rainbow face better tomorrow, but you just need to be in a space where you can say, I'll make something better. I'll make something good tomorrow. And I think for me, you know, my hardest thing creatively ever in my life was letting go of my ambitions as a comic book artist, and just seeing that that doesn't work for my life or for my psyche or for my creativity. And once I let go and stopped thinking about the comic book stories I was going to tell every day of my life, then suddenly a brand new landscape opened in front of me, and that's letting go has terrific power.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's a good point that we should kind of dig into a little bit. And we did bring this up a little bit too. I like that. Is, you know, kind of the purge. I've been going through a lot of that in my personal life. We're kind of embarking on this kind of new idea of like minimalism, new to us idea of minimalism. And we're, you know, I don't know that we're gonna like be like super minimalist where we have like count the amount of items that we have and, you know, live in an echoey apartment with no chairs or anything, but you know, we're gonna try to at least minimalize the clutter in our life. And so we've been getting rid of a lot of things, and I even talked about it in my last video. You know, I'm even going to be getting rid of a lot of my physical art, I think. I haven't done it yet, but, you know, I am going to, you know, make sure I scan the things in and take pictures and all that stuff, and possibly even make like a sketchbook out of it. But that being said, you know, there's also, like you said, with the goals and ambitions, I think you know, for me, it's been a big journey of, you know, every time I see something creative, I want to take part in it. And I've had to learn through the years to stop doing that. I can't do everything, you know, and I have to find the thing that I really need to do and want to do. And for me, it's kind of, it's similar to what Kim just said, but in some ways a little bit opposite, because I came to the point where I realized I'm most fulfilled creatively when I'm creating art with a story involved. And I think, Kim, even though you're not doing comics, you do that anyways. But, you know, that to me is a huge, for some reason, it's very fulfilling. And even though it's really hard and it seems impossible almost to make a career out of it, I'm like we said earlier, you know, do it or die trying. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I've tried to go the route of making just single illustrations and fan art and things like that, and it just, something about it doesn't resonate enough. So I've had to, stop thinking about doing. I've done that with music too. Like I've kind of purged my big ambitions with music. Now it's more of a hobby thing and something that inspires me. There's a lot of just different projects. I was doing like sculpting and all kinds of other things. There's a lot of different things that I've come to realize. All right, what I want to do is not that, and because it's not that, I can put more focus and energy towards what it really is that I want to do. Have you guys experienced that, trying to purge things from your life?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I know around the new year there's a couple of people that I follow that they like burn their sketchbooks from like 4 or 5 years prior.
Wow.
So like they just make a big huge bonfire, just throw it in. But I mean, to be said, I've done that same thing, and it's very like gratifying. I don't know why. It's one of those things of when you are trying to get better, and you have like, in my opinion, like if you're trying to get better and you have art, like say from high school, and you're comparing your current art to your old art like that, and you say to yourself, I'm not seeing a difference, it can be harmful. Like if you're seeing the same mistakes. So, but if you're noticing the mistakes, then there's something that wants you to grow.
I think,
yeah.
I think that if you're looking back at your high school work and seeing the same mistakes, and you're not in high school, you might be doing something wrong. But that's actually, I didn't mean for it to come off as arrogant as it came out, but that's actually a good thing to sometimes you have to look back at high school stuff, and sometimes you have to realize how little you've progressed,
right,
and make that as an excuse to reinvent yourself and find somewhere where you can actually make a lot of progress. And I'm arrogant at heart, so I had to learn the hard way that never count someone out. Never, if you're seeing a friend of you just draw the same crap every year after year after year, and he just doesn't get it. He just isn't improving. Then don't count him out, because one day he will turn, he will stumble onto whatever he was doing wrong, and in a few months he might surpass you in every single way. I've had that happen to me too many times. Some people need to really do their mistake over and over and over again until they realize that, oh, actually, this is how it works. And you never know. You never know where you're at that type of journey. And we all do that journey again and again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. I do know I have one particular habit that I haven't broken for a very long time. But the thing is it's a gesture that I always seem to do.
What is that gesture?
It's basically, I don't like drawing head-on shots. I always like, if you see a head-on shot for me, they always look weird, but I still will post it. But like if it's like a head turn or a slight head turn, you'll always see me do that, but the eyes will go forward. I do like draw a lot of shots like that because that is a comfortability. And when you were saying before, like, you know, talking about like people like seeking like the same thing for like basically being comfortable with it and not challenging themselves, like I think last year I kind of tried to start challenging myself more often with that, but I still haven't broken that pattern.
Yeah, I definitely have things like that. I think actually the opposite is true for a lot of people I notice, and I notice for me as well when it comes to head-on shots. You know, it's easy to just kind of do that straight shot of like I'm creating a superhero or I'm creating a character, and it's like this is what he looks like, you know, or she or whatever, you know, and you know, it's easy to kind of do that and then to forget, oh, like you really, when you start to make comics, you realize, wow, I rarely draw characters in a lot of different positions, you know, and perspective is not something I even play with or environment, you know, a lot of times. And when you start making comics, you have to deal with those issues. So comics in and of itself is a big boatload of jumping into these scary new places. Um, there's a couple questions we have here in the chat I wanted to hit up, especially speaking about making changes. And I just wanted to also make the point, too, if you feel like you're a little bit stagnant, you know, it is good to look at the old stuff. It is good to look at to just kind of look back, you know, and evaluate where you're at. Because I think in the example that, you know, Kim was talking about where you see people and you're like, oh, they're not progressing. You know, sometimes, a lot of times it's like a self-awareness thing, you know, it's like, you know, I think of like Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that. Not that I've been through it, but I've known people who have, and you know, they always say like the first step is admitting, you know, that you have a problem, you know, and it's the same thing on a much smaller scale with art as well. So we have here Extender U10. How much anatomy is important for an artist? And this is, I did want to bring this up because once again, you know, this is a self-awareness issue and trying to get better at things. And, you know, I would say personally, this is the way I feel. Everybody's different on this topic. But for me, anatomy is it's important, but I feel like it's more on the mastery side of things. I don't think it's the first thing you need to worry about. I think the first thing you need to worry about is getting good gestures and start working out the forms, understanding that everything is made up of forms, and you know, kind of going through that process of creating, being creative with your characters and all that. And if you're making a comic, I actually would say it's much more important just to make a comic, get one finished, get a mini comic finished, whatever. And then, you know, as you get better and better, you'll start to realize, okay, I'm kind of tired of my characters looking so wonky and weird. Let's get this anatomy going a little bit so I can understand that and make it look even better. So to me, once again, the anatomy side of things is kind of more of a mastery type of skill, you know.
I think that anatomy is as long as you're able to tell what you're trying to tell within the style you want to work in, then that's all the anatomy you need. If you're drawing stick figures and your stick figure anatomy is spot on, you can tell anything you want within that medium. But if you're wanting to have a more naturalistic look, then a wonky arm will actually tell the reader something that you don't want to tell them. So anatomy is all about what you're trying to express. if you're trying to express something that needs some sort of artistic naturalism, then you need to work a hell of a lot on the anatomy.
Yeah, I totally, can see that. Oh no, I'm on the live stream. Yeah, sorry, sorry guys. Yeah, my wife just walked in. She was asking me some questions. But as far as like the anatomy goes, yeah, I definitely agree. That kind of you can do a lot without like getting too deep into anatomy. But even like you said, your stick figures need to have some kind of consistency and stuff. But even if they're not, I feel like it is worth, in my opinion, it is worth making something, whether your anatomy is on point or not. That's something that you can keep learning. I mean, honestly, there's certainly comic artists who have totally ignored the rules of anatomy and made a career out of it. I'm not saying that I recommend that, but that's, that has happened.
Yeah.
And we got also another chat here. Once again, I'm trying to I'm trying to use the Apple Pencil on a laptop screen here. Martuna 618. I just got here because YouTube recommended me, and it's worth it. So thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. And this person asks, "How do you release a mini comic for beginners, please?" Well, you're in luck. You've come to the right channel. I actually did a video about that. It's my most popular video. It's how to start your comic, and definitely I would say check that out. People have gotten a lot from it. And also we have a Discord community, which there's a link in the description, and that's exactly what we're kind of doing is making mini comics and all kinds of different comics. This year we're trying to make as many as we can. So there's a lot of advice and help you can get through those things. But that being said, how do you release a mini comic for beginners, please? The way that and I know Pepper definitely has some experience with this, and I think all of you guys do. But the way I like to do it is, well, you the simplest way when I first did mine was I came up with like a story, and the story was nothing more than just like a bulleted list of this happens, then this happens, then this happens. This was, like I said, my first mini comic. My process has gotten different since then. Um, but and then I started kind of planning out the pages. I actually, the way tend to make comics, I kind of usually end up abandoning that part of it, which a lot of people would not recommend. Thumbnailing is sometimes, in some ways, the most important part, but for some reason, I just get too impatient and I just go with the flow and make a comic. But anyways, so I kind of start with that realm, and I think probably the easiest way to go, and I haven't actually done it quite this way yet, but the easiest way to go about it is to take some computer paper and just fold it in half and draw on each side, and put it together like in a comic form. And don't staple it together necessarily yet, but just draw on each side and make it into what looks like a comic, and then copy those pages, with a photocopier, double-sided, and you can duplicate that, and then get a long arm stapler, staple it together. I mean, this is, like I said, the very basic way of doing it, but make a goal to just finish an 8-page comic or something like that. And once you finish that one comic, you'll have learned a lot, I think. What about you, Pepper? I know you've had some experience in this.
Well, I mean, I did the 1-hour comic challenge, which was fun. And if anyone wants to see a very good, excellent playlist and video for it, check out Marsh's channel. He does have a very good one because, yeah. But as far as like mini comics and stuff like that, like a lot of the times, go to your local comic book shop, tell them that you have this idea after you've gotten it done, and ask them if there's any events that are right there so that you can get people to get it in front of them. That's one thing that that's for, I guess, afterwards. But when you're doing it, I think Marsha just described my process. So when I'm doing it myself and I have to be all hats, writer, art, writer, pencil or inker, colorist, all of that stuff, and letterer. I think taking one step at a time. If you're gonna focus on the writing part, do it, but you don't want to have your head too far into it that you don't get your comic book done. So if you need to take a breather, but do it by drawing those characters. Do a character design sheet, which will help you more illustrate that story in your head, so you don't get stuck. If it's going to be a short story, like an 8-pager, stick to maybe 1 to 2 characters at first. And if you want more characters, add them in, but don't overload it, because the moment that you have 10 characters in an 8-page story, people are going to get turned off because it's too much. So yeah, recommend max 5 for an 8-page story if you really want to push the limits of how many characters you can introduce.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a short story based off of some larger story idea that you have, you do want at least the core characters involved. The other thing is, if you go back to writing and you get stuck, don't be afraid to ask people, because the moment that you start asking people hey, what do you think about this? You want honest feedback. So if you're getting, oh, it sounds great, I think this is going to be wonderful, they're not very things that you can get actual good feedback from. But if you it seems like it's empowering, but it's really, if they're not giving anything you to kind of help you if from what you're trying to ask. I'm not saying go value those opinions, but basically search for people that are going to basically be like, hey, I don't like this part because I think this character needs to sound more like this because you developed it this way first, and now you just regress the character. If you get into a group of people that do that, I think not only is your stories going to get better, but if you have questions about your artwork and you're willing to put it into that same group, they'll give you honest feedback, and it will help you improve how you were planning on drawing the story as well. That's several things that you can probably do to help with the mini comic creation. As far as the releasing part, again, that is communicating, knowing your audience, trying to get into stores. A lot of comic book stores, if you don't have an ISBN number, that's fine for some of them, because a lot of the times they just put you in as a miscellaneous item and then they just type in your price. That's literally all you have to do. So long as you keep your price on the front of the material or somewhere on the material that you're printing, a lot of them have very good expectations. But when you're doing that, know that those people are not doing those comic book shops. A lot of them are not doing them for the love of money. A lot of them are doing them for everything, to just basically because they love comics. So if you're excited about your own comic, they will be excited for you if you're coming to them. The main experience that I have with that is a comic book shop that's in the middle of the mountains of Colorado. They have people come out and visit, but I go out there as much as I can because the people there appreciate that I drive from where I drive into the mountains just to see them. And it's because they like my artwork that I keep going back. So
I think, sorry, one thing that you both mentioned that should be stressed is if you don't know how to do it, then join some 24-hour comic day group, or join a 1 hour comic group, or if you can't join them, then make a 24-hour comic book event, and you will probably fail at making the 24-hour comic the first time, but after a few times you will have made a 24-page comic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've done a few of those events. They get really crazy towards the end.
Oh yeah.
It's like people bring like donuts and pizza and everything like that, and it's like it's really hard it's really hard for some of them to keep focus.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time keeping focus after 20 hours as well. Personally, I will never do the 24-hour comic book properly if I ever do it, because I just don't want to be awake for that long. Personally. But yeah, what about you, Ronnie? Have you ever embarked on mini comics? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would say, like Pepper did, stick to like one or two characters, because when you look at Sunday comics like Garfield, a lot of time it's only like one or two characters in there, and that's pretty much these artists. They're used to drawing like small panels and short stories. That's like the perfect way to learn from a lot of people who did it. And also too is with Pepper, like he's saying, go to comic book stores, or sometimes even go to like other events like big flea market events or stuff like that you could get your work out there and viewed by other people. And with going back to the anatomy, with some characters like Garfield or Odie, sticking to basic anatomy is good, but with some of these cartoon characters, you could really play along with and like create different things that you could still tell that, hey, that's a dog, even though it doesn't look like a normal dog you would see in real life.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to there's different styles of art. Jake Parker talks about this. I've heard other people talk about it as well. There's kind of, there's the expressive side, there's the abstract side, there's the realistic, detailed side, and there's kind of this whole range in between. And when you start to get towards kind of more cartoony stuff you might see in something like Garfield, you're starting to work more with symbols. So does this symbol tell you cat? Does this symbol tell you dog bowl? If it does that, the point of making comics, I think, even way more important than really anything, but way more important than anatomy, is your storytelling clear? If you have clarity of storytelling, you're already, heads over tails above the rest. You're doing good, basically. So that's, yeah, that's all I need to say, I guess, about that point. And I also, once again, not that this point has already been driven home pretty well, but I will say from my experience, when I did do my first mini comic, and I guess this is what I can add to that, is this whole thing with just keeping it low character wise, not a ton of characters. When I first started my first one, it was two characters, one setting for the most part, and they had a fight, and they there was a little bit of interesting dialogue between the two, and that was it. That's how simple it was. Two characters, one setting. The next mini comic I made, I decided to expand the characters a little bit and have two settings. So we did that. We made that happen. And then in the third one, I really wanted to start to see if I could get into actually making these characters a little bit more alive, a little bit, bring more depth to the characters. And, I also expanded the amount of characters and settings. And so you not only limit it at first, but also, build on top of each one, do a little more, do a little something different, take a new challenge, maybe start introducing perspective into it, maybe start introducing better anatomy into it, or whatever you want to do. Challenge yourself with every project, and I think you'll make great progress,
But going back into what you were just saying, even doing that, like, it's kind of like what I was saying before. Like, you could have 10 characters in the story, but it doesn't have. They don't have to be all in that one first mini comic.
Yeah.
If it's a mini comic based in a world that you want to develop, you're talking about developing it over time, which is actually much better for your audience. If you put it out there and people are liking it, it's great for that. So like when I mentioned that, that's basically the main point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I dig that because certain formats kind of work better with different things, and page count is a big thing, size is a big thing. You can only do so much in certain sizes. The 1 hour comic book challenge, once again, was a great. I'm glad Pepper brought it up because that is actually probably the easiest way to make your first comic, and also very challenging. When I did it twice, the first time I did it, I failed, but I went on and finished it after a couple hours or whatever, and I made a comic. So a comic came out of it. It's just a little tiny comic. You can fit in the palm of your hand. And then the second time I actually did accomplish it. It's not the most beautiful looking comic, but once again, it's a comic, and I practiced the art of making comics once again, and it only helps. So that's a great way to start for sure. Other than that, does anybody else have anything they want to talk about as far as getting started? I think we're kind of rounding in on the end here. Making
honestly,
a fresh start.
I would say don't be afraid and just create it. You'll never know exactly how anything turns out unless you do it.
I would say be afraid, but do it still.
Yeah, I like that that whole thing of kind of diving into the unknown a little bit. Don't quit your job and say you're going to start a comic career when you haven't even made a mini comic yet. But I do like the idea of diving in creatively and seeing what happens, basically. So I like that exploratory kind of spirit. I tend to be. I feel like I have a bit of entrepreneurialness in me as well, like when it comes to business. So that kind of thing is really cool. And also, what's really cool is that that butterfly thing, that that butterfly monster that
that's pretty
Kim
nice.
just made.
That's nice.
Are you more satisfied with that than the face?
Yeah. This one is less crappy than the face, but still enough failures to want to give me the drive to do something more.
Awesome. I think I like the face too, but this is really cool too.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's go around the room and Pepper, where can people find you?
If you just go into a search engine and type in Pepper DeLuca, I will come up.
Awesome.
I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and YouTube.
Yeah. And I would just definitely recommend checking out Pepper's stuff. He's got really cool comics. He's always trying to say something interesting, and I think I'm always interested when I read his comics. So definitely check that out. Mr. Kim, where can people find you?
I will not try to get you to write the unwritable name again, so I'll just plug my brand spanking new Instagram side project, which is Daily Ink Monster, daily_ink_monster, where I post one ink monster every day, and it's definitely a fresh start. It's definitely going slow, but I will definitely keep on doing it because it's fun.
Yeah, everybody go to that. And speaking about fresh starts, let's let's help him out. Get some subscribers. Get some people over there checking out that thing, because I'm going there right now myself. Actually, I'm going to subscribe because I can't wait to see what kind of monsters you create. Ronnie, where can people find you?
You could find me again on Facebook with RonnieGunter.art and Instagram with Gunter.art, and you'll know it's me because a lot of my characters are very cartoony animals. So
Awesome. And yeah, definitely check out Ronnie's stuff. Ronnie has in the past been doing interactive comics, which is really neat. So definitely look and see what he's got for that. And I'm looking forward to the new book that you're working on. So you guys know where to find me, DonkeyJawProjects.com and Marsh Comics on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, if I ever get back to TikTok. And that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will talk to you on the next one. Alrighty. Later, guys.
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.